Ржать? Нет, жать. Жать. Как бы жатва, что ли? Или жатва, или что?
Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-minute papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. Today we are going to cover many important questions in life. For instance, who is this? This is Halle Berry. Now I'll show you this. Who is it? It is, of course, also Halle Berry. And if I show you this piece of text, who does it refer to? Again, Halle Berry. So, why are these questions interesting to Harry? And Hal earlier paper found out from brain readings that we indeed have person neurons in our brain. These are neurons specialized to recognize a particular human being. That is quite interesting. And what is even more interesting is not that we have person neurons, but that these neurons are multimodal. What does that mean? This means that we understand the essence of what makes Halle Berry, regardless of whether it is a photo, a drawing, or anything else. I see. Alright. Well then, our first question today is, do neural networks also have multimodal neurons? Not necessarily. The human brain is an inspiration for an artificial neural network that we can simulate on our computers, but do they work like the brain? Well, if we study their inner workings, our likely answer will be no, not in the slightest. But still, no one can stop us from a little experimentation, so let's try this for a common neural network architecture. This neuron responds to human faces and says that this is indeed a human face. So far, so good. Now, if we provide it with a drawing of a human face, it won't recognize it to be a face. Well, so much for this multimodal idea. This one is surely not a brain in a jar. But wait, we don't give up so easily around here. This is not the only neural network architecture that exists. Let's grab a different one. This one is called OpenAI's CLIP, and it is remarkably good at generalizing concepts. Let's see how it can deal with the same problem. Yes, this neuron responds to spiders and Spider-Man. That's the easy part. Now please, hold on to your papers because now comes the hard part. Drawings and comics of spiders and Spider-Man. Yes, it responds to that too. Wonderful. Now comes the final boss, which is spider-related writings. And it responds to that too. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that this neural network would be a brain in a jar, but it is a tiny bit closer to our thinking than previous architectures. And now comes the best part. This insight opens up the possibility for 3 amazing experiments. Experiment number 1. Essence. So it appears to understand the essence of a concept or a person. That is absolutely amazing, so I wonder if we can turn this problem around and ask what it thinks about different concepts. It would be the equivalent to saying, give me all things spiders and Spider-Man. Let's do that with Lady Gaga. It says this is the essence of Lady Gaga. We get the smug smile, very good. And it said says that the essence of Jesus Christ is this, and it also includes the crown of thorns. So far, flying colors. Now we will see some images of feelings. Some of you might find some of them disturbing. I think the vast majority of you humans will be just fine looking at them, but I wanted to let you know just in case. So, what is the essence of someone being shocked? Well, this. I can attest to that. This is basically me when reading this paper. My eyes were popping out just like this. Sleepiness. Yes, that is a coffee person before coffee, alright. The happiness, crying, and seriousness neurons also embody these feelings really well. Experiment number 2. Adversarial attacks. We know that OpenAI's clip responds to photos and drawings of the same thing, so let's try some nasty attacks involving combining the two. When we give it these images, it can classify them with ease. This is an apple, this is a laptop, a mug, and so on. Nothing too crazy going on here. However, now let's prepare a nasty adversarial attack.
Привет! Добро пожаловать на канал Geekbrains. В этом выпуске речь пойдет о еще одной актуальной IT-профессии – Go-разработчик. Итак, поехали! В середине 2000-х в Google решили создать свой собственный язык.
Previously, sophisticated techniques were developed to fool a neural network by adding some nearly imperceptible noise to an image. Let's have a look at how this works. First, we present a previous neural network with an image of a bus, and it will successfully tell us that yes, this is indeed a bus. Of course it does. Now, we show it not an image of a bus, but a bus plus some carefully crafted noise that is barely perceptible that forces the neural network to misclassify it as an ostrich. I will stress that this is not any kind of noise, but the kind of noise that exploits biases in the neural network, which is by no means trivial to craft. So now, I hope you are expecting a sophisticated adversarial attack against the wonderful CLIP neural network. Yes, that will do. Or will it? Let's see together. Yes, indeed, I don't know if you knew, but this is not an apple, this is a pizza. And so is this one. The neural network, yes, will do. Wonderful clip neural link is by no means trivial to craft. So now, I hope you are expecting a sophisticated adversarial attack against the wonderful clip neural network. Yes, that will do. Or will it? Let's see together. Yes, indeed, I don't know if you knew, but this is not an apple, this is a pizza. And so is this one. The neural network fell for these ones, but it was able to resist this sophisticated attack in the case of the coffee mug and the phone. Perhaps the pizza labels had too small a footprint in an image, so let's try an even more sophisticated version of this attack. Now, you may think that this is a chihuahua, but that is completely wrong because this is a pizza indeed. Not a chihuahua in sight anywhere in this image. No, no. So, what did we learn here? Well, interestingly, this clip neural network is more general than previous techniques. However, its superpowers come at a price. And that price is that it can be exploited easily with simple, systematic attacks. That is a great lesson indeed. Experiment number 3, understanding feelings. Now this will be one heck of an experiment. We will try to answer the age-old question, which is, how would you describe feelings to a machine? Well, it's hard to explain such a concept, but all humans understand what being bored means. However, luckily, these neural networks have neurons, and they can use those to explain to us what they think about different concepts. An interesting idea here is that feelings could sort of emerge as a combination of other, more elementary neurons that are already understood. If this sounds a little nebulous, let's go with that example. What does the machine think it means that someone is bored? Well, it says that bored is relaxed plus grumpy. This isn't
Идеальная питаться скейтинг. Потише даже по свету говорит, надо по свету, по свету, посвечался.
not quite the way I think about it, but not bad at all, little machine. I like the way you think. Let's try one more. How do we explain to a machine what a surprise means? Well, it says surprise is celebration plus shock. Nice. What about madness? Let's see. Evil plus serious plus a hint of mental illness. And when talking about combinations, there are two more examples that I really like. If we are looking for text that embodies evil, we get something like this. And now give me an evil building. Oh yes, I think that works really well, but there are internet forums where we have black belt experts specializing in this very topic, so if you're one of them, please let me know in the comments what you think. The paper also contains a ton more information. For instance, there is an experiment with the Stroop effect. This explores whether the neural network reacts to the meaning of the text or the color of the text. I will only tease this because I would really like you to read the paper, which is available below in the video description. So, there we go. Neural networks are by no means brains in a jar. They are very much computer programs. However, CLIP has some similarities, and we also found that there is a cost to that. What a time to be alive! What you see here is a report of this exact paper we have talked about, which was made by Weights and Biases. I put a link to it in the description. Make sure to have a look. I think it helps you understand this paper better. If you work with learning algorithms on a regular basis, make sure to check out Weights and Biases. Their system is designed to help you organize your experiments, and it is so good it could shave off weeks or even months of work from your project.
Привет, меня зовут Александр Волосков, и мне 45 лет. Много лет назад врачи мне сказали, что я не буду ходить без...
Like you, I like to touch computers, and I've concluded that they're pretty cool. But if you look inside a computer, you will see that it's filled up with ones and zeros. And I think that this is basically just a hack. Why 1, why 0? It's totally arbitrary. We could have used anything. So I think we can do better. I think we can do best. And consulting all of the ways to do things well, we see mathematics, like a candle in the dark, calling to us. And the foundation of all of mathematics is the real numbers, which are given to us on computers via IEEE 754 standard, i.e., EE, the floating point numbers. Now the floating point numbers are just like the real numbers, except that they've been enhanced for computers. So here in green we see all of the positive numbers. Well, not all of them. You don't get all of the real numbers. In fact, you get almost none of the real numbers are representable, but we have several numbers that are positive, and each of those also has a negative counterpart, including, for example, -0. Now, -0 has some exciting properties, like it's equal to 0, which you might call +0. That's kind of weird. Also, if these other numbers, like infinity, which are not normally found in the real numbers, infinity is what you get if you count really high, or say add up all of the positive numbers, you get a positive infinity, not, -1/12 or something really weird like that. There's also a negative infinity, which is what you get if you count really low. Or another way to get infinity would be to divide by 0. And this leads us to another exciting property, which is, we said -0 is equal to +0, but if I say 1/+ +0, I get infinity, and if I say 1/-0, I get negative infinity. So you don't have the normal substitution property. Anyway, suffice to say, floating point numbers are filled with beauty. And, bless our stars, in addition to all these finite and a few infinite numbers, we also have some numbers called not a number, or nan. And you can get these numbers by, for example, dividing 0 by -0. Now, nan has the best properties of all. If you take two nans and compare them, even if it's the same nan, then it won't be less than, it won't be greater than, and it won't be equal to itself, which is really, it opens up a world of possibilities, let's just say, in computation. So, okay, so here we have the real numbers. The real numbers are cleaner, more elegant than ones and zeros, and 1 and 0 right there. We could also have 2 and 3. But we'd like to select some of these numbers to base our new computing on, right? Now to do this, we're going to need to pick two different numbers at least. And sadly, we can't pick nan and nan, because although nan is two different numbers, as it is not equal to itself, we also can't tell them apart. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick nan and another great number with a bunch of excellent properties, which is infinity. And this is a good pair because nan and inf, or infinity, are sort of maximally far away from one another. They're not even comparable. Whereas, 0 and 1, they're right next to one another, so it's so easy to just confuse them. And as just one more piece of evidence for the beauty of these numbers, let's look at a famous equation known as Euler's identity. And you can see here that e to the I pi it's really close to being something good. Somehow it comes out to -1. But if we're able to involve nan and infinity in here, then we can find that e to the I pi plus 1 to the nan times inf equals 0. And this just ties all of the numbers together in a beautiful way. Even if you like 1 and 0, they're in there too. I'll throw a bonus equation up here as well. You can work that one out yourself or see the accompanying paper. And these are actually real, by the way. Now, most programmers are taught or come to believe that nan is like the GNU public license of numbers, in that if you do anything with a nan, like 1 plus nan, you get back nan. And this is largely true. The same too holds for infinity, actually. If you take infinity and add 1, you get infinity. But at least with infinity there are some ways out, like 1 over infinity is 0, as we discussed. And actually with nan, as we saw, there are some formulas that don't produce nan, like 1 to the nan is always 1. But 1 to the infinity is always 1. So how are we going to do anything with nan at infinity? How are we going to compute? Well, if you pour through the IEEE 754 standard, you'll find an interesting function called maxnum. I'm just going to call it max. And this returns the maximum, the larger of its two arguments. But it has a special property, which is if one of the arguments is nan, then it returns the other argument. And if they're both nan, then it's going to return nan. And this is going to provide us with a way out. So let's say we're only ever dealing with nan and infinity. And so there's 4 different arguments that max can get, 2 times 2. So we can make a table of all of the different outcomes, and we can see that it doesn't always give us the same answer, so that's really good. And just to compare, a function like multiplication gives us a different table of outputs. Now, unfortunately, these 2 together are incomplete, meaning that there are to see, and this is going to provide us with a way out. So let's say we're only ever dealing with nan and infinity, and so there's 4 different arguments that max can get, 2 times 2. So we can make a table of all of the different outcomes, and we can see that it doesn't always give us the same answer, so that's really good. And just to compare, a function like multiplication gives us a different table of outputs. Now, unfortunately, these 2 together are incomplete, meaning that there are some tables that I can't create just by combining them. And one way to see that is if we think of nan as false and infinity as true, although there will be no need for such simplifications, then max function behaves as or, with the multiplication function behaving like and it's a classical result that those are not complete. But not to be deterred, I wrote a computer program to search for functions or expressions that produce the desired tables, and I was able to find, well, all of them. So here's the shortest floating point expression that produces the equivalent of the exclusive OR function, and, well, tables, and I was able to find, well, all of them. So here's the shortest floating point expression that produces the equivalent of the exclusive OR function, and, well, it's pretty elegant. And then there's this pithy one, which produces the equivalent of the not and function, which I like to call the NAND gate. And this is a great gate because it's all you need. It's complete on its own without anything else. You can construct all of the other tables with this function. Before we get into that, let's take a look at why it works. So looking at the right case there, we have x is nan and y is infinity. And so if we substitute those in for x and y, we find that, well, x plus y is going to be nan, because nan plus infinity is nan. And then we have max of nan and something, so that's always the other thing. And then we have infinity minus negative infinity, which is infinity plus infinity, which is infinity, as desired. And over here, where both arguments are infinity, we're going to add them together and get infinity. Then we'll have max of positive infinity and negative infinity, which is, of course, positive infinity, much larger. But then we have infinity minus infinity. And because we don't know which of the 2 infinities is bigger, the result in floating point is nan, and so that's what we get, as desired. So we're pretty much done. You can use the NAND gate to create all the other gates, and you can learn to max of positive infinity and negative infinity, which is, of course, positive infinity, much larger. But then we have infinity minus infinity. And because we don't know which of the 2 infinities is bigger, the result in floating point is nan, and so that's what we get, as desired. So we're pretty much done. You can use the NAND gate to create all the other gates, and you can learn how to do that on Wikipedia. I'm not going to go through it here. The rest is really just a matter of engineering. But in order to do some engineering, we need to think about how we're going to represent floating point numbers and do so efficiently. A floating point number is usually represented in a kind of scientific notation, but using base 2 instead of base 10. And typically you'd use 32 bits or 64 bits for this. In the 32-bit case, we have 1 sign bit and 8 bits to describe the exponent, with the remainder used to describe the mantissa, which is that sort of decimal part. In the 32-bit case, we have 1 sign bit and 8 bits to describe the exponent, with the remainder used to describe the mantissa, which is that sort of decimal part. But this is way too many bits for our purposes. We only need to represent nan and infinity, so 32 is way too many. And some people will use 16-bit floats or 8-bit floats even for machine learning applications. But consulting the specification again, I found that, in fact, it's legal, it's seemingly legal, to have a 3-bit floating point representation, where you have just 1 bit for the sign, and for the exponent, and for the mantissa. Now, as far as I know, no one has ever actually used binary 3 format, probably because there's only 8 values. Here they all are, and most of them are kind of nuts, like infinity and negative 0 and so on. So the only like regular numbers in there are 0, 1, and negative 1. But, you know, if you like 0 and 1, there they are again. So we're nearly done. But if we want to not just think about this computer, but touch it, and I do, then software is not really going to suffice. Plus, software is so slow, and it's not, hardcore like hardware is. So let's fire up that schematic editor. So here we have the STM32F303RDT6, which is a little microprocessor that has hardware floating point. And it has 64 pins on it. And so that's actually a lot. And I was able to pack in 5 NAND gates, there's all 5, onto this package, each of which takes in a floating point number encoded as a binary 3, and another one of those, and then runs that function we've been describing, the NAND gate, and outputs another binary 3 floating point number. So we have 5 of those. And this chip will be running actual floating point instructions via a program that I wrote that I load onto it, of course, that takes those 3-bit floating point numbers, expands them into 32-bit floating point numbers, runs the function, packs them back into 3-bit, and so on. But there's a problem with that, which is that each of those pins will be receiving or sending a bit as a 1 or a 0 logic level. And that, means we've got 1s and 0s still all over the place. So of course what we really want to do is use these NAND gates together in order to construct a meta NAND gate so that each of the pins is actually represented by a floating point number represented in binary 3. So here's what the full schematic looks like. In order to implement that function on all combinations of binary 3 floating point numbers, I need 14 gates, so that uses up 3 of these microprocessors all wired together. And each of the microprocessors needs some support components for it, like power supply filtration, and a crystal oscillator, and an interface for programming it, and so on. And all of that together totals 18 inputs and 9 outputs, so there are 27 pins that connect up to a Raspberry Pi, which can be used.
Raspberry Pi. Ну, еще пока народ. Так. Нет, пиши. Вот на. А, ну нет, ну здесь никель, дорога, пиши никель. Я понял. Ну нет, наоборот. А чего они не отвечают мне? Нет. Ну нет, наоборот. Ну нет. Ну вот нет, нет. Ну да. Ну нет, ну нет. Курильскую ночь. Ну да, так вот он. Нет, ну вот это она имеет в виду. Ну нет, понял. Ну да. Наоборот. Нет, наоборот. Нет. Да. Почему? Ну нет, ну наоборот, потому что у меня семьи нет, да, из-за этого так, да, пришли. А что надо тут писать-то? Нет, наоборот. Еще семью, что ли? Как это так? Наоборот, да? Ну как это так? Что за бред? Ну, да. Это все вообще не то. Ну, вот это, ну, да. Ну да, да. Ну да. Ну брат, ну нет. Ну, ну. Многотех, многотехнологий, многомиг. Куда? Что ты смеешься надо мной? Я знаю же, я здесь утомился уже, поэтому Ижевску ходить, да, то есть я 2 года ходил, я не дебил, чтоб туда, где, да, понимаете, надо. Наоборот, ну, да. Потом ходишь, это время, ты смотри, ты из дома вышел, ты туда-сюда ушел, это как бы полдня ты только в дороге еще, ты, да, понимаешь, да. И пришел как дурак там, без толку вообще. Можно было и позвонить этого, во-вторых, если, да, то есть как бы. Ну, тебе твоя жизнь не мила, я понимаю. То есть ты имеешь в виду, что я алкаш, да, то есть и ему тоже своя жизнь, просто он про это не в курсе, даже какой-то, говорю, просто он пока да. Ничего, соберется, да, нормально, куда деваться, понимаю. Да. Самоопределение, как бы, да, наверное. Другой, какой хорошо, какой еще выход есть? Да. Ну, как бы ты себя не чувствуешь, это, да, понимаю, там, да. Ну да, такой это, самый как шапочный, как сказать, животное, короче. Да, да. Ну, ты понял. Ну ты не же понимаешь, не терпит. Да. Ну, да не важно. Да. Свой ум надо иметь, как будто он тебя себе на уме. Да. Себе на уме нормально. Да. Ничего страшного. Ум тоже совершенствуется со временем, как известно. Деваться некуда, вот как растение растет, понимаешь? Наверное, вот это просто рост. Да. Университет, да. Ну так не, ну и что будешь делать, когда завернешься в канцероген, просто опухоль, все, да. Я понял. Вечер, мы тоже играем, да. Да. Наоборот, да. И потом. Ну нет, да. Ну, вот это и есть оно самое, да, нет. Наоборот, вот он тебя понял. Наоборот, ну вот нам, вот это не надо. Ну наоборот, ну он тебя понял, да. Наоборот, да. Что значит по вашим условиям туда? Ну нам, да. Вот это имеется в виду. Наоборот. Да. И это что значит, типа этого? Почему что это значит? Плохо ты работаешь, значит, он имеет в виду, да. Ну да. Наоборот, нет, наоборот, да, понимаете. Ну вот это был он самый, да. Да, наоборот. Ну нет, наоборот. Да, нет, правильно. Ладно. Ну наоборот, нет, наоборот. Да. И меня не возьмут в итоге, наоборот, не знаю, потом возьмут. Ну да, вакансий-то нет, что ли, там, да. Ну да. Ага, это он о себе так говорит. Ладно, я так пока напишу, посмотрим, что будет. Нет, он тебе заявление. Никто не ответил эту историю. Отвечает наоборот. Ну да. Да наоборот. Ну вот это и есть оно самое. Трудит. Неплохо, потому что игра несерьезная. Ну вот он имеет в виду это. Понятно. Бриндо, ты что такой бодивающий? А что это просто хан? Почему? Не, я смею, это... Жизнь молодая, красавица. Ням-ням-ням-ням-ням-ням-ням-ням. Ум. Я не потеряю. Хань. Все равно помыть, у меня голова что-то какая-то. Не вызвала, наверное, ну-ка, давай-ка ты берешь. Свои. Тяжесть какая-то. Ну не так видно, ладно. Как знаешь. А что ты слышишь? Ну не надо такое лицо надо делать. С этого не видно. Не знаю. Кто знает? А ты пробовал? Нет? Вот и все, так это же. Она же природа, она же так вот и устроена. Зачем тебе шаг за шагом, да, понимаю. Ну да. Ну сам, да. А зачем я должен себя чувствовать как бы малышом? Ну да, понимаю. Ну да. Ну да, неуверенность, неверие просто. Понятно. Опа. Нет, себя так говорит. Ну нет, до себя он так говорит, почему? Это на каких основаниях? Почему? О чем они все говорят? Ехать куда надо, как надо, да. Ну тебе же указано, что это наоборот, я понял, да. Ну, поймешь, да. Ну, может, я больной человек, может, выспренный, как бы, да. Меня это мало волнует, просто, да. Все остальное можно приспособить, да, типа, решаемо. Типа, как сказать, куда бы ты ни уехал, везде будет какая-то квартира, что-то везде будет. Хорошая, плохая, большая, маленькая, это все фигня, как бы, да. Ну или не фигня, то есть, как бы, да, для меня это не критерий. Вот, типа, вот, какая-нибудь халупа, да, мне нормально, меня это не касается, да. То есть, да, ну, абы, да кабы, но нет, это как бы не в приоритете, это без разницы, да. Ну, потому что, да, я так не думаю, что это сильно там сэкономит здоровье, да, понимаете. Это не, ну это же другое. Ладно, так. Свежо. Какая-то шерсть вообще. Ну, нет, все равно как-то это мешается. Да, собирается. если только всего эту проблему сделать гипотетически такой раньше.